What's up, tennis fans? Sleepy Picks here. We got some more second round picks to talk about at the Winston-Salem Open. Let's take a look at the draw. Here's a look at Medvedev's quarter. First match we're going to talk about is Medvedev against Damm. Damm able to get through Shelby today, 6-4, 7-6. And this was a bad pick by me, thinking that Shelby would be able to take this match. Damm looking pretty good here. Good serving numbers. Returned well enough to get a break in that first set. And then a 7-2 breaker against Shelby in the second. So a nice win there for Martin Damm to get it done in straights. Where we talked about earlier, he did play Shelby in Washington, going 3 sets, 7-6 in the third set there. Now he takes on Medvedev. Medvedev's 20-6 on the hard courts this year, 20-12 last year, 28-9 the year before. He's coming off a 3-set loss to Nakashima. And guys, if you remember, that was a match where Medvedev literally had Nakashima up a set and a break. Serve for the match, not able to get it done there. Loses the second set 7-6, and then loses the third 6-1. Just a little bit of a mental breakdown there. Obviously, Nakashima upped his game, but it felt like once Medvedev went down that break in the third set, he was basically done. And I think that might be part of the reason why he took the wild card into this tournament, to just kind of get a few more reps. I'm sure that's not the match you want to be thinking about going into the U.S. Open. But of course, could there potentially be an even worse loss around the corner? I don't know. Martin Damm, on the other hand, he's 9-8 on the hard courts, 36-13 last year, 7-7 the year before, and he was on a 2-match losing streak before beating Shelby in the first round. No head-to-head between these guys, and I think in order for Damm to win this match, he's going to have to serve very well. I think the only path I really see him winning this is if he potentially can get to a couple of breakers and beat Medvedev in those breakers, but not sure I can trust Damm to get it done in a 6-4, 6-4 fashion. That would really surprise me. I think that Damm serve is going to get a little bit exposed from the Medvedev return. We have Medvedev. He likes to return very far back into the court, so he'll be able to put a lot of those Martin Damm shots back in play. I would look for Damm to use that serve +1 and then also serve and volley. That's a good way to neutralize that court positioning of Medvedev. But I got to stick with Medvedev here. I think he gets this one done in straight sets. And before we get to Mannarino and Sonego, let me talk to you quickly about Kecmanovic and Marozsan. We do have a full breakdown of this in our first part of our second round picks, but I really like Kecmanovic to get through here. I thought he looked pretty good against Shimabukuro, and I love the Kecmanovic forehand. I think he's going to be able to win a lot of those rallies against Marozsan. I think the biggest thing he's got to do here is neutralize that serve of Marozsan, that serve +1, but we just haven't seen many good matches from Marozsan lately, so I got to stick with Kecmanovic. I know he's got the ability to play some good hardcore tennis. We saw it in Acapulco. I think we'll see it again here. So I like him to advance out to the round of 16 there. Next match is Mannarino and Sonego. Head-to-head here is 3-2 in favor of Mannarino. We'll talk about that in a second. Mannarino coming in, he's 3-10 on the hard court, 16-16 last year, 9-17 the year before. Hasn't had a winning record on the hard courts since 2023. He's coming off a 3-match losing streak right now, starting in Washington, D.C., where he lost to Mickelson and Fernley and Shapo. He did beat Lerner Tien in D.C. in the first round in straight sets, so that's a pretty nice win there for him. Sonego, on the other hand, he's 4-4 on the hard courts, 11-14 last year, 10-14 the year before, and he was able to beat Hughes Herbert in 3 sets. Remember, Herbert came in replacing Kopchiva, who withdrew due to an injury. That's something we're going to have to keep an eye on going into the U.S. Open. A little bit concerning there. Sonego's coming off a loss to Tiafoe in Cincinnati, and we know Tiafoe going on that great run to get to the finals, losing to Arthur Fils in 3 tough sets. So maybe not that bad of a loss for him there. Looking at that head-to-head, as we mentioned before, it is 3-2 in favor of Mannarino, and this was actually 2-0 to start. Sonego getting a win in Rome in 2018, and then a win in Antalya in 2019, and then Mannarino reeling off 3 matches here, winning in the U.S. Open in 2020 in 4 sets, at United Cup in straight sets in 2024, and then in Beijing in 3 sets in 2024 as well. So Mannarino holds a 3-0 hardcourt record over Sonego. I get a feeling that this is going to be a little bit of a trickier match. We do have Mannarino not playing as well as he normally does on the hard courts. 16 wins last year, 9 wins the year before, 15 wins the year before that, 18 wins the year before that. This has only been a 3-win season for him on the hard courts. So we have a little bit of a step back from Mannarino on the hard courts. And Sonego still coming back from injury. We see some glimpses where he does play extremely well. I look back to that match that he played against Taylor Fritz on the grass in Wimbledon. I thought he played extremely well there. I'll be very interested in this match to see kind of how it goes. It's that Beijing match back in 2024. Sonego came out and won the first set 6-1. Would I be surprised if we saw something like that here? No. But I think I got to stick with Mannarino here. He's kind of had that head-to-head. And I feel like when you have that and you play Mannarino's game, it's going to be a mental battle, big-time uphill battle for Sonego. So I'm going with Mannarino to advance. I think he does it in 3. Next match is Navone against Duckworth. No head-to-head between these two guys. Duckworth coming in, he's 9-11 on the hard courts, 25-20 last year, 23-14 the year before. He was able to take out Van de Castile pretty easily, 6-2, 6-1. Is coming off a loss to Arthur Fery, 7-6 in the third set there in Cincinnati. Was able to beat J.J. Wolf in straights. And, J.J. Wolf playing some decent tennis, also coming back from an injury. But I liked what I saw. I saw him play against Coleman Wong in, I think it was the Bloomfield Hills Challenger. And I liked the way he was attacking. He was hitting the serve really well, using the serve +1, roping the forehand. So it'll be interesting to see what J.J. Wolf, if he can do anything at the U.S. Open. Navone, on the other hand, he's 9-7 on the hard courts, 5-12 last year, 2-7 the year before. He really hasn't had any great seasons on the hard courts. Back in 2020, he was 4-2. This guy mostly likes to stay on the clay, so he's starting to figure out ways to adjust his game to the hard courts. But we've seen him have wins in Montreal against Berrettini and Vaccaro, losing to Fils in straight sets, beat Collignon in straight sets, and then lost to Alexander Blocks in straights. So there's a little bit of a hit or miss here from Navone, and he doesn't have many big shots, to kind of push you off. We talk about the American hard courts. They do like to play a little bit fast. And Navone just doesn't have that big shot to kind of rope past you. He does a really good job redirecting. I think back to that Vaccaro match where he was able to just kind of deflect a lot of the big shots from off the Vaccaro racket and eventually get a miss. And that was basically the third set there for those two guys. Guys, this is a coin flip for me. But I'm going with Navone. I just like Navone's game. I like what I've seen from him this year. And I think, that confidence that he got on the clay courts is starting to translate over onto the other surfaces as well. So I'm going to go with Navone. I think he gets this one done in 3. Here's a look at Medvedev's quarter of the draw. And guys, I'm still leaning towards Kecmanovic to get out of here to the semifinals. I think he's going to beat Navone in the quarterfinals. Wouldn't surprise me if we saw maybe Sonego make a little bit of a run here, but I'm going with Kecmanovic to get out to the semis. Let me know what you guys think. Post your picks in the comments. Here's a look at Fery's quarter of the draw. First match we're going to talk about is Fery against Hewitt. No head-to-head between these two guys. Let's talk about Fery's record here. 9-5 on the hard courts, 18-4 last year, 12-7 the year before. He's coming off a straight set loss to Demonar, but if you remember, this was 7-5, 5-1. Then we got a rain delay. Fery came out and played some inspired tennis, getting into a breaker, but too many unforced errors in that breaker. He wasn't able to win it. Was able to beat Duckworth in the second round of Cincinnati. Cruz Hewitt, on the other hand, he's 12-9 on the hard courts, 17-8 last year, 4-6 the year before. He's coming off a loss in the South Haven M25, where he lost 6-3 in the third to Chidek. Comes out here, beats Sebastian Gorsny 1-6, 7-6, 6-4, and this was a really back and forth match here. Gorsny came out and he showed us that he was the more mature player. He was playing extremely aggressive but controlled as well, and just waiting on some of those Hewitt errors. We saw Hewitt kind of talking to himself a little bit. The second set, Hewitt showed his maturity. I mean, he's only 17, I believe, but for him to just regroup, he goes up a break pretty quickly, gets up to 5-2. Gorsny able to fight back and get it to a breaker, and you really think that this might be the end for Cruz Hewitt, but Gorsny just a few too many mistakes in that breaker, losing at 7-3. Hewitt had a couple of big forehands as well to kind of seize the momentum. And then we go into the third set, and it's a 6-4 win for Hewitt. I mean, this to me, for Hewitt to withstand some of the tennis that Gorsny was playing, I thought was extremely mature from him for a teenager. And I'll be interested to see how he plays Arthur Fery here. No head-to-head between these two guys, as we talked about. I think Fery's got the ability to really bother Hewitt. I can see him. For me, the biggest thing with Hewitt is you have to just be able to absorb that big shot. You know, we saw Hewitt have a nice win over Marcos Giron because he was able to rope that forehand and open the court up with his forehand. I don't think he's going to be able to do something like that with Fery. He did the same thing against Gorsny in the last couple of sets. And I really just don't think we're going to see that. I think Fery's got the legs to kind of fight back, and he also has that big forehand that he can kind of pummel into Hewitt and really make him work for a lot of these points. I got to go with Fery to advance here. I think he's going to make a little bit of a run in this tournament. So give me Fery in straights. Next match is Mies Rottgering taking on Thomas Machac. No head-to-head between these two guys. And honestly, guys, I wonder if somebody can tell me where you can watch some of these side court matches. So I found that on FanDuel and DraftKings, they offer the streaming option so you can watch these. But for some reason, Tennis Channel doesn't show those courts, and neither does Tennis TV. So I'm not really sure what they're streaming from. I looked around for a little bit to see if there was a way for me to get, maybe a better quality video, because sometimes the ones on FanDuel are just a little bit grainy. But I wasn't able to find anything. But I mean, clearly they're showing the videos. Clearly they're being recorded. So I wasn't able to find anything. But let me know if you guys know of how to watch some of these side courts, because it's tough putting them on, and getting into the match and then having to put the next match on. So I'm missing some matches. But let me know. No head-to-head between these two guys. Let's talk about Mies Rottgering first. He's 17-5 on the hard courts this year, 8-9 last year, 8-7 the year before. He was able to come out of qualifying here, beating Hunter Heck and Hugo Grenier. Grenier getting a nice win over Safiullin today. Then Rottgering beats Choinski, and we talked a little bit about that Choinski game. He's more of a grinder, likes the clay court, and he was able to Rottgering was able to control the points with that forehand. Rottgering's coming off a second-round loss in the Brownsburg Challenger to Lloyd Harris. Thomas Machac, on the other hand, he's 8-5 on the hard courts, 15-9 last year, 22-11 the year before. He's coming off a loss to Carreno Busta in straight sets. And Machac, coming off an injury, hasn't played since the French Open prior to that Cincinnati tournament. So I'll be interested to see what kind of shape we get him in here. Guys, this match is just screaming upset for me. I think Mies Rottgering is going to be able to take it. We talk about how he's also a Wake Forest player, so you get that comfort level. We saw how comfortable he was on the courts today, but also how comfortable DK Suresh was on the courts too. I think that's a big-time advantage. You talk about, one, you're sleeping in your own bed. You're eating at the restaurants that you know and love. So there's a comfort level there that these Wake Forest players have that some of these other guys don't. I got to go with Mies Rottgering to advance here. I think he does it in 3 tough sets again. Next match is Van Assche taking on Kovacevic. No head-to-head between these two guys here. Let's talk about Van Assche first. 12-7 on the hard court, 7-4 last year, 15-15 the year before. He's coming off a win in the Quebec Challenger, beating Sacclarides in the final there. Also had wins over Sakamoto, Bonzi, and Hugo Gaston to get to the finals and win it there. Impressive stuff. In Cincinnati, he lost in the first round to Hanfman in straight sets. That was a little bit disappointing. Kovacevic, on the other hand, he's 8-10 on the hard courts, 13-14 last year, 20-17 the year before. He was able to beat Felix Balshaw in the first round today, 6-4, 7-6. A little bit of a trickier match than he probably would have liked. And Kovacevic is coming off a loss to Brandon Nakashima in Cincinnati, 6-2, 7-5. And we know how well Brandon Nakashima has been playing, so I don't know if that's really that bad of a loss. Kovacevic also beat Kecmanovic in the first round there in Cincinnati. As we mentioned before, no head-to-head between these two guys, and the predictor has been Assche predicted to win in 3. I don't know if I really agree with that. I'm still leaning towards Kova. I do feel like some of that magic that we saw earlier with him taking the ball early on the backhand side, him roping the forehands, I feel like some of that's gone now. Van Assche starting to gain a little bit of confidence here. This is such a tricky match. And this would be a big win here for Van Assche to get through it. But you have Kovacevic is on the American soil. He's going to have the crowd with him. Guys, I'm going to go with Luca Van Assche to win this match. I know I said I don't really agree with the predictor, but just the fact that he was able to win that challenger, I think really helps me. He's going to be coming in with a lot of confidence, and we always talk about, if you're on a winning streak in tennis, you tend to find ways to win, and vice versa. If you're on a losing streak, you tend to find ways to lose. I think Van Assche is going to find a way to win this match. It's going to be a tough 3-setter, so give me Van Assche to advance in 3. Here's a look at Fery's quarter of the draw, and I do like how this draw is starting to shape up for a potential Fery Tsitsipas quarterfinal. I am leaning towards Fery to get out to the semis here, beating Tsitsipas. Let me know what you guys think. Post your picks in the comments. Here's a look at Buse's quarter. Let's talk about Juan Manuel Cerundolo taking on DK Suresh. DK Suresh getting through Marcos Giron 6-3, 7-5 in straight sets today. Definitely would not have played this one, would not have thought this was going to happen, but he came out with purpose. He seemed extremely comfortable on the surface, and then you had Marcos Giron, who seemed a little bit disinterested at times in this match. I really liked how Suresh was able to put a lot of pressure on the Marcos Giron serve. He pressured that second serve a lot. Giron was not throwing in. He was throwing in too many kick serves, and DK was able to step in and rope that serve back. And towards the end of that match, we saw it kind of pay dividends. Giron getting 2 double faults in the final game where he got broken. So a great straight set win there for DK Suresh. He's not going to take on Juan Manuel Cerundolo. No head-to-head between these two guys. Cerundolo coming in, he's 5-4 on the hard courts, 10-9 last year, 0-3 the year before. He's coming off a loss to Felix Auger-Aliassime in straight sets in Cincinnati. DK Suresh, on the other hand, he's 17-9 on the hard courts, 17-6 last year, 9-5 the year before. He's coming off a loss. He's coming off a loss to Sakamoto in the Brownsburg Challenger. Guys, I think we've seen, some guys that have like a little bit of a bigger game. You got Mickelson, Sakamoto, able to beat DK Suresh. Cerundolo doesn't really have that big of a game. However, we know DK's had a lot of success in at Wake Forest in college. This is the type of player that you probably don't see a lot in college. The guy that grinds every point down, that's got a really heavy spin forehand. He's going to be able to get a lot of shots back. He's going to make you play 1 or 2 extra balls. I think this is going to take some time for him to get acclimated, and I really see Cerundolo kind of running away with that first set. DK's got to be able to play these points short. He's got to be able to get up to net. He can't let these long rallies persist against Cerundolo. Otherwise, 1, the legs are going to go, but 2, Cerundolo's got to be favored in some of the longer rallies. Guys, I think this has been a great tournament for DK Suresh. I think winning a round definitely does a lot for the confidence level. I just don't think he's going to be able to get through Juan Manuel Cerundolo. I think the forehand's going to be too much. I think the defense is going to be too much. So give me Cerundolo to advance in straights. Next match is Baez taking on Grenier. Grenier able to get through Seth Fuel in 3 sets, 6-3 in the third there. Wasn't able to get my eyes on that match. He now is going to take on Baez. Let's talk about Grenier's record for 7-8 on the hard courts, 30-18 last year, 20-15 the year before. Lost to Mies Rottgering in the finals of the Winston-Salem qualifiers. but able to get a lucky loser spot and takes full advantage of that, beating Safiullin. He is coming off a 2-match losing streak, losing to Blanche in 3 sets in the Cancun Challenger. This is Dolly Blanche, not Darwin Blanche, so the younger brother of Darwin. Sebastian Baez, on the other hand, he's 15-7 on the hard courts, 3-9 last year, 5-9 the year before. He's coming off a loss in the Cancun Challenger to Hubert Hurkacz, 6-3 in the third set there. Was able to beat Pacheco Mendez, Coleman Wong, and Lloyd Harris to get to the finals. No head-to-head between these two guys. I'm really interested to see kind of how this match is going to go. I think this is, I don't know if I want to say must-win for Baez, but I feel like Baez has been playing slightly better. Definitely has some confidence going in, losing a tough 3-setter against Hurkacz. So I'm going to go with Baez to advance here. I think he's going to do it in straights. The next match is Buse against Walton. Head-to-head here is 1-0 in favor of Walton. We'll talk about that match in a second. Let's talk about Walton's path here. 29-18 on the hard courts this year. 32-23 last year. 46-27 the year before. He was able to beat Jasper de Jong in straight sets there. Also beat Buse last tournament in straight sets. You wonder if there's a little bit of revenge on Buse's mind. Walton ended up losing to Fery in a third set breaker in the third round there. Buse, on the other hand, he's 3-4 on the hard court, 6-5 last year, 3-3 the year before. This guy definitely prefers to clay a little bit more, but he does have a game that could potentially become acclimated to the hard courts. Buse's coming off a loss to Adam Walton, as we just mentioned, 6-4, 6-3 there. And that makes that head-to-head 1-0 in favor of Walton. You know, guys, I'm kind of curious what potentially could change here for Walton to get the win, or sorry, what could potentially change here for Buse to get the win over Walton. I just don't know if there's enough time for him to implement those types of changes. So I'm going to lean towards Walton to get this one done. I feel like it might be a little bit trickier the second time around, you know, in a week and a half or so. So I'm going to go with Walton to advance. I think he does it in 3. Here's a look at Buse's quarter. And guys, I'm kind of leaning towards Altmaier and Cerundolo to get out to the quarterfinals there. I do like Juan Manuel Cerundolo to get out to the semis. I just love the fight that he has for every match. Even though sometimes it's not going well, or, you know, the forehand's not clicking, he's still able to grind out some of these tougher wins. So I really like that. And I think he's always going to give 120% in this tournament no matter what. So give me Juan Manuel Cerundolo to advance out to the semifinals. Let me know what you guys think. Post your picks in the comments. Here's a look at Darderi's quarter, the draw, and 3 of these 4 matches we've already talked about in our first video, so definitely check that out for a little bit more of an in-depth analysis. I'll give you the cliff notes on these. Collignon and Hijikata. I got to go with Hijikata here. I think he's got a little bit more than Collignon does, and again, Collignon really hasn't shown us anything yet in this summer hardcourt series. We saw a little bit on the clay from him, but so far we haven't seen much. And he made a pretty good run last year, beat Casper Ruud at the U.S. Open. So I don't know if he's going to be able to match it here. It seems like he's had a little bit of regression. So I got to go with Hijikata to advance to the round of 16 there. Bodik van Zandschulp and Vallejo. I like Bodik. He was able to make a run out to the finals last year here. I think he likes the way these courts play. And when he gets going, he's extremely fun to watch. You know, just connects with the ball really well, can take the ball early, hits his strokes very smooth. So give me Bodik to advance there. And then Bellucci and Darderi. Again, guys, I have a lot of questions about Darderi. How motivated are you going to be prior to a Grand Slam, playing the week before? I'm not sure. I mean, we already saw him withdraw in Los Cabos, where he went down 3-0 and just stopped playing. So could we see something like that here? Maybe. I think Bellucci's playing some good tennis. He's starting to get his feeling back on those legs. You know, he did have a little bit of an injury, but starting to move a little bit better now. And I think the more matches that he gets under his belt, the more of a danger he's going to be to some of these seeded players. So I'm going to go with Bellucci to advance there. Let's talk about Bonzi and Halys now. Head-to-head here is 5-2 in favor of Halys. Let's talk about these guys records here. We got Bonzi coming in. He's 11-10 on the hard courts, 15-13 last year, 13-13 the year before. He was able to beat Machac in straight sets. And guys, this is a really tricky match here for Bonzi. Was down set points to Machac, able to come up big here. And, the one thing that killed me with Machac was he just didn't have the offense. I felt like he was trying to force offense against Bonzi, couldn't really do that, and then also just redirects a lot of the balls, but doesn't have an aggressive shot to really put the ball away or get Bonzi on his back foot. I did like in the breaker, Machac was looking to come in, take some time away. He got an overhead to go up 6-4 and missed it. And that to me, I was just like, Bonzi's definitely going to win this one now. So good win there for Bonzi to get through in straights. And we got to keep an eye on Machac. Had a great grass court season. But going into the U.S. Open, I don't know if he can be trusted to even win a round. Halys, on the other hand, he's 18-10 on the hard courts, 12-14 last year, 6-6 the year before. He's coming off a loss in 3 tough sets to Alex de Minaur, 7-6 in the third there. Was able to beat Kopcheva, Bue, and Kwan to get to the second round. Let's talk about this head-to-head here. As we mentioned before, it is 5-2 in favor of Halys. Halys getting the most recent win this year in Adelaide in the qualifiers, a 6-3, 6-4 win for Halys over Bonzi. Bonzi's last win coming in Metz on the indoor hard courts, 6-3, 7-6 in 2024. Guys, I gotta go with Halys. I think this is a little bit of a mental hurdle for Bonzi to get over, and I can't remember who we saw Bonzi play. It was on a grass court, and he didn't have a good head-to-head, and he lost that match. So I'm sticking with Quentin Halys here to advance. I think he does it in 3 sets. Here's a look at Darderi's quarter of the draw, and I do feel like there is a path where all the seeds could advance to the round of 16, but I think we're going to see a couple of upsets here. Looking at this draw, I'm going with Bodek van Zandschulp to make it out to the semis in this draw. I think he'll beat probably Halys in the quarterfinals. Let me know what you guys think. Post your picks in the comments. Here's a look at our final first round records. 10-5 for me to wrap up the first round. Hopefully we can carry this into the second round. And as always, guys, thanks again for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share your picks in the comments. Share the video. Again, we're getting some really good comments going into the U.S. Open. A lot of news that people are dropping here. A lot of insights, which definitely helps with us making our picks. So please continue to comment. Continue to add your picks. Love hearing from you guys. I'll see you in the next video.